Chapter 1. The Man Everyone Looked Down On. I walked into the high school reunion with 3 small hands wrapped around mine, my triplets shuffling nervously beside me in their matching thrift store sweaters, their eyes wide as the room filled with laughter, perfume, polished shoes, and people who once shared my classrooms but now barely recognized me as one of their own. And I could feel the weight of judgment before anyone even spoke, because my suit was old, my shoes were scuffed, and my posture carried the exhaustion of a man who had worked night shifts for years just to keep 3 children fed and warm. And then she appeared, my ex-wife, radiant, flawless, dressed in a designer gown, arm-linked with a confident executive-looking man, her laughter sharp and loud as if meant to slice straight through me, and when her eyes landed on me they narrowed with disbelief before curving into a cruel smile as she loudly announced to the table around her, "This is him. The man who said he'd be something someday," and the laughter that followed felt like being stripped bare in public, my children tightening their grip as if they sensed danger, and she leaned down to my daughter's height and said with fake sweetness, still dragging them around, "Are you?" before turning back to the crowd and adding, "Guess dreams don't pay bills." And I wanted to disappear, not for myself but because my sons and daughter were watching, learning in real time how cruel the world could be. And just when I thought the night couldn't sink any lower, the room fell into an odd hush as a tall, silver-haired man at the far end of the hall stood up slowly, his gaze fixed not on my ex, not on her wealthy partner, but on me and my children. And in that silence something invisible shifted, though I had no idea yet that my life was about to fracture and rebuild itself in ways no one in that room could imagine. Chapter 2. The Billionaire Who Saw the Truth. The man approached with calm authority, his presence commanding without arrogance. And as he stopped in front of us, he crouched down to my children's level and asked their names as if nothing else in the room mattered, listening carefully as they answered, correcting them gently when they spoke over one another, smiling with genuine warmth, and only then did he stand and extend his hand to me, introducing himself simply by his first name, though whispers spread instantly because people recognized him as one of the most powerful billionaires in the country. A self-made investor known for owning companies that employed thousands, and he looked me straight in the eye and said, "Raising triplets alone is the hardest leadership role there is." And something in my chest cracked because no one had ever said anything like that to me before, and he turned to the room and added calmly, "Success isn't measured by the car you drive or the person you divorced. It's measured by who depends on you and sleeps peacefully because of your sacrifices." And the same people who had laughed minutes earlier now avoided my gaze. My ex's smile frozen and brittle as glass, and the billionaire asked me where I worked, nodding thoughtfully when I told him I did maintenance and janitorial work at night while freelancing during the day, and instead of pity he showed curiosity, asking how I managed schedules, budgeting, discipline, and emotional balance for 3 children. And as I answered honestly, he listened like it was a boardroom briefing. And before leaving, he handed me a simple card and said, "Come see me Monday. No promises, just a conversation." And when he walked away, the room erupted into forced chatter, but nothing felt the same. My ex's partner suddenly quiet, her eyes darting between me and the door, and as we left, my daughter whispered, "Daddy, that man was kind." And I realized kindness, real kindness, was rarer and more powerful than money. Chapter 3. From Humiliation to Transformation. Monday morning I stood in a glass tower that smelled like polished wood and ambition, my children waiting with a nanny arranged by the billionaire's assistant, and during that meeting I wasn't offered charity but responsibility as he explained he was launching a foundation and needed someone who understood structure under pressure, someone who had proven endurance without applause. And he offered me a paid leadership role with training, benefits, and flexible hours, warning me it would be harder than anything I'd done before, and I accepted without hesitation, working relentlessly while still packing lunches, reading bedtime stories, and showing up to school events. And months passed as I grew into the role, learning strategy, finance, and negotiation, until one day my ex appeared at my office unannounced, her voice softer, her pride bruised. apologizing in fragments and hinting at reconciliation. But when my children joined us and stood confidently beside me, I understood something had changed forever, and I told her calmly that respect arrives too late when love has already been replaced by survival. And when another reunion invitation came a year later, I attended again, not to prove anything but to close a chapter, and this time I walked in wearing a tailored suit, my children smiling freely, and the same room that once mocked me now watched in stun. Ned's silence as I was introduced as the Foundation's director, my ex shrinking into the background as applause filled the hall, and I realized success wasn't the applause, it was the fact that my children believed in themselves because they had watched me endure. Chapter 4, The Legacy That Truly Matters. Years later, as the billionaire's health declined, he invited me to his home and told me quietly that what moved him that night wasn't my humiliation but my composure, the way I shielded my children with dignity instead of bitterness. And when he passed, he left me not his fortune but something greater: trust, influence, and the mission to build systems that lifted overlooked parents. And today my children are grown, confident, compassionate, and unafraid of hard work. And sometimes they still ask about that reunion night, and I tell them it was the night the world tried to define me and failed, because character outlives judgment, humility outlasts mockery, and love, real love, always attracts the right witnesses, even billionaires, when you least expect it. If this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you that patience beats pride, don't forget to subscribe, because the next story might be the one that changes how you see your own life.